Media first impressions are especially important. I'm asking you to hear me out on this one, because this one has gotten me into a bit of trouble in the past. So let's start out with my screw-ups. In a lot of cases, especially Nikorama, with shows like Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I judge them mostly from their first episode, and that was cruddy of me to do, because I'm a critic. It's my job to give a show the most thorough look I can. However, most people aren't critics. Well, they say everyone is a critic, but it's not most people's job to review something. So let's talk about the beginnings of a show. In my personal opinion, the first few episodes, the first episode especially, is the most important part of your entire show, the only exception being the finale. It's an old adage, really. Put your best foot forward. And in my reviewing career, I've come across a lot of shows, a lot of video games, a lot of movies, a lot of etc. that don't do that. A really good example of this is BoJack Horseman. I've said it in both my review of it and in this particular project that the first 3 episodes of the show are outright bad. That is an hour of content. So let's just say that the first hour of it is bad. But then the show gets really good. Like one of my favorite shows of all time. It gets better. It gets amazing. And I almost didn't watch it because of that first hour. It took me a lot of prodding to really get past those first 3 episodes. This is talking as a casual viewer. I wouldn't have gone about reviewing it or anything if I didn't get past those first 3 episodes. I would have just decided that the show was not for me. Sure, you can call me impatient when it comes to media, but I'm not alone in that regard. I have talked to numerous people who backed down from BoJack Horseman because of how bad and stale those first few episodes were. I can state for certain, as a fact, that BoJack Horseman lost viewers because of its bad first impression. There's this thing called the attention economy. You might have noticed how internet videos are getting shorter, actually. The TikTok, which specializes in short-form content, has surpassed YouTube. The skeptical person would say that people's attention spans are shrinking. But no, people naturally have short attention spans, and media is just adapting to that. And a good chunk of people will not go to episode 2 of a show if they weren't grabbed by episode 1. The most common response to that is, well, it's their loss. And you're absolutely right. It's their loss. They lost out on great content. However, if enough people lose out, the show itself loses out and gets cancelled. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had its viewership peak and plateau between episodes 10 and 20 of Season 1, and then it crashed, with many episodes of Season 2 not even getting 100,000 views. In most people's memory, how the show started up until halfway through Season 1 is what the show is. I understand that it takes some time for a show to really start picking up speed. Like, it can take a while for them to truly figure out the formula and what works well within it. I'm not asking for everything to be figured out straight away. Things like Chuck Cunningham syndrome do annoy me, where the show just poofs a character because I don't think they need them anymore, but stuff like that is excusable. But there's a limit on that. An okay start is okay. A bad start is very bad. It makes shows, especially ones that aren't episodic, hard to recommend. Ed, Edd n Eddy and Friendship is Magic have pretty mediocre starts, but you could just start on Season 2 with those shows. If I want to recommend BoJack Horseman, I have to say, you're going to be watching an hour of crap that you can't skip, but it is worth it in the end. Legend of Korra is the worst example of this, I know. It gets really good, deep into Season 2. Before that, let's just say that it has issues. There are also ways around this. For non-episodic shows at least. The first episode produced of The Simpsons is Some Enchanted Evening, which is the worst episode of Season 1. It's clumsily written, it ends badly, and has rougher animation than most of the season, even after being reanimated. So, they used episode 11 as episode 1, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, and it's well known as one of the best first episodes of all time. SpongeBob is another case of this. Help Wanted is also another one of the best first episodes of all time. Production code 127, as in the 27th episode of the show in production order. Tea at the Tree Dome was number 1. They made their first episode after making episodes like Pizza Delivery, Fun, Pickles. Pretty much all shows that have a really stellar first episodes do this. I get that this is more of a production thing than a writing thing, but it really does say something when it comes to the longevity and the mainstream popularity of both of these shows. The best way to think of it is like this. The first episode is your hook. It doesn't need to be the most amazing thing ever. We're not talking about Samurai Jack, but it needs to hook. I don't need to see that these are the most amazing characters ever, but I do need to see, I want to spend more time with these characters. That's where Korra lost me.
I'm not oppressing anyone. You're oppressing yourself.
That's where Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lost me. That's where BoJack Horseman lost me originally. To put it as bluntly as I can, most people don't like to work for their fun. And getting through a slog at the start is just that. In Doki Doki Literature Club, to get to the interesting parts, the thing the game is known for, you need to spend hours playing the most stock, bog-standard, banal visual novel in history before the game actually starts freaking out. Skyrim crafts this deep narrative and has this huge open world, but the beginning takes so long and is so tedious that the most popular mod in the game removes the beginning entirely so people can just skip the story altogether. Most media does get better as it goes on, at least into a point. Seasonal rot is a thing. It's sad when media doesn't get better out of the gates, but I do believe that there is a minimum standard at the start. A first half season of a show can be so bad that I do feel like it's not worth my time to continue. Let me put it this way. There have been more than 2,500 cartoons that have aired stateside, more if you want to count anime subs and imports. I do not have time in my life. There is literally not enough hours in my lifetime to watch not just everything, but everything good. That's also not including movies, books, live action shows, video games, and I don't know, bicycles. There's a lot in life. And in most cases, when a show starts bad, it does stay bad. There are exceptions, plenty of exceptions. Korra and BoJack are said exceptions, but that's what they are. They are exceptions to the rule. I have to state this again to make sure I'm not sounding presumptuous. It was a mistake when I took this attitude to some of my reviews, especially during Nikorama. I'd be a critic, and it's my job, the thing that I am paid to do, to investigate things as thoroughly as I can, and I screw up a lot of times there. But as a critic, I do have to tell when it comes to these properties, there is an investment that is required in watching them. And in this world of non-stop entertainment, there are more things that can ever be experienced with no required investment. As a critic, I have to say, put your best foot forward, because the worst thing you can do for your art is to fall on your face right out of the gates.